Check, check. Well, hello there. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, whenever you're listening. It is September 28th, 9:14 in the morning. It is Tuesday. So why do I always mess up saying the date and time? It is Tuesday, September 28th, 9:14 in the morning. How about them Cowboys beating the Philadelphia Eagles last night for Monday Night Football? I believe the score was 41-21 or 40-21. I think it was 41-21. Dang, some people owe me money. Some people owe me some push-ups. You know who you are. I want to thank everybody for joining in today. I posted on the Facebook that I've been up since 4 a.m. today for no good reason, but that just gives me time to sit in my thoughts. Went to the gym a little earlier than normal because I was up, so might as well. Got some school done this morning, so bada bing, bada boom. Here I am. So glad to be with you guys today. Listen, I titled the episode, actually, I think I might, oh wait, I did title it something different. I titled it Leaders Get Punished. And then I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I've been thinking about Lieutenant Colonel Stu getting put in the brig. If you don't know the story on that, it's basically a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps who's been standing up for accountability about the 13 Marines and sailors who died in Afghanistan a couple weeks ago, and then we have some other people in hospitals and such getting fired today in New York City for not getting the vaccine. And just we can think of countless stories of people who get punished for standing what they believe in or being competitive, things of that nature. And I've just become to realize, I'm also on a football team, so I deal with coaches a lot. And I was in the Marine Corps for a very long time. Not a very long time. I was for 5 years long. What I meant to say is that I've spent a lot of time, and I've been to a lot of courses in leadership, spent hours and hours and hours listening to higher ups talk about how they want to instill leadership and integrity and discipline and yada, yada, yada. And then I entered the civilian world, and I don't know, I've seen a lot of things that I don't particularly like. I've dealt with CEOs, I've dealt with founders of companies in some various gigs I've done, and I just am realizing that there's some fake people out there. Actually, it's not even that. It's more like people say they want something, but then when it happens, they don't actually want it. And I'm speaking right now to people in charge of stuff. Okay, you might be a coach, you might be a boss, you might be a CEO, you might be a manager, you might be a, yeah, that pretty much sums it up, right? Anybody who's in charge of something. Maybe you work in a government office, whatever. you always, when you apply for the job, they always say they want somebody with some leadership, and they want somebody who can help the team, who has integrity. And then, you hear all the time, if you want to get some promotion, you got to show some leadership, you got to show some tact, you got to show some of this, some of that. What up, Mike? Joining the Twitch chat. Long time no see. Well, where have you been at? I've been here. Had an episode yesterday. Well, my last episode before yesterday was Thursday, but that's only 4 days. How you doing, man? Continuing on, somebody who's, everybody's heard it. Somebody who's in charge of you has always said, we need someone to step up in leadership, and we need to see people with some integrity, some character, blah blah blah. And then when those things happen, people get punished for it. I'm beginning to think that people don't actually want leadership or integrity to advance their company. I think they want leadership so that they can be more hands off, right? If you want somebody who's competitive, let's take Michael Jordan, for example. Michael Jordan, from a coach's perspective, was a lot to handle, right? So Michael Jordan was super competitive, so he liked to win, so he would let coaches know what was up, right? Aaron Rodgers, kind of the same thing. Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, there's a little bit of controversy with him, but he's a competitor. He wants to win, so he lets his organization know the issues. Mike, I'm glad you can catch the show today. But then when it comes down to business and even some other sports teams and I don't know, government, whatever, when it comes down to having someone who is a leader, who is a competitor, they crumble. They can't seem to handle it. They don't know how to direct it, right? Maybe it's because they're a little bit challenging to them, to their authority or whatever. Or maybe it's because they're intimidated by them doing their job better. Some of this people don't really understand what I'm talking about, or maybe you are a boss or you are a CEO or whatever, and you think that maybe that this doesn't apply to you. Then just keep listening. Our office team Mike Twitch. Our office team focuses on next man up. Quote, next man up. What does that mean, Mike? I bet someone who works in office knows exactly what I'm talking about. I want to hear your guys' perspective. Before we continue on with what I'm gonna rant about, I want to know what people in the chat are saying, or if you guys kind of pick up on putting down. That makes sense. If you guys kind of see where I'm going with this. Okay, so we've seen it all the time. People get called out, or let me retract what I just said. We've all kind of been there to where we have some sort of leader in front of us trying to instill leadership, and then when we go to do leadership things, we stick our neck out, we get punished for it. It might not be actual punishment, right? It might just be, the punishment could come in form of different things, right? You could be reprimanded, you could actually be demoted, or you can be fired or whatever, like those big things. But then you could also like kind of get socially punished, right? Like your teammates or your team members or your fellow peers kind of like not make fun of you, but they kind of like, oh, that guy said that, what an idiot. You know what I mean? Mike explaining the next man up. If you Google it, you get a better description, but it's about building your team to where if someone is incapacitated, quits, or moved to another spot, another member of the team is ready to take their place. Essentially, everyone is a leader or needs to be ready to be a leader. Yeah, that's kind of like smart. I guess that's like kind of how every team of any kind should be set up. In the military, it was a lot like that, obviously. But what I'm talking about is I think CEOs, most bosses, most people in leadership really just want a bunch of yes men. I know I've been kind of punished for challenging the authority a little bit. Granted, there's right ways to do it. But it seems like the minute that somebody actually steps up and does leadership things or does competitive things, they get punished for it, right? I don't believe that they want to hire the best leaders because it'll further their, I mean, the grand scheme of things, it will further their business, but I don't believe that's why they want to do it. I think if I'm the boss, right, and I want to be as hands off as possible, I'm going to hire the best people who lead the company when I'm absent. Why is that? Well, because quite frankly, I'm a business owner and I want to make the most amount of money and do the least amount of work, because at some point, that's the whole goal of being an entrepreneur, right? You want to work for yourself. You want to make your own schedule. Or maybe you want to do a different business venture while still having the income of another. So they want someone to be a placeholder for them. They don't want someone to actually lead their own way. They want people that lead their way. They want things in a certain way, and that's how it's going to be. It's their business. But I'm saying all this because I think that there are people out there like me who feel that every time they step out to try to lead or try to be competitive or try to, try to just be that edge or set that edge, I feel like there's other people like me who feel like they get punished for it. So I'm saying all this to kind of encourage you to keep going, because you're eventually going to find your niche. I haven't necessarily found my niche yet. I'm just saying I know it's coming. Whether you're on a sports team, whether you're an athlete listening to this right now, or whether you work in an office, or whether you work like in government or like in the military or whatever, you will find your niche into where you can lead the way that you lead. Okay? Now you might be thinking, well, John, I'm not really a leader. I just kind of like to go to work and go home. That's fine. I'm not really talking to you then. Well, maybe, because you got to like lead your family, right? There's something that you lead that you don't really realize that you lead, right? And when I say leaders, I don't necessarily mean that that you are the most outspoken or the loudest. Did y'all hear that on the mic? It sounded like something very big fell over outside my house. Kind of distracted me a little bit. Sorry if you guys heard that on the microphone. Mike in the Twitch said, I don't think that's necessarily true. Leaders like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they want people to handle day-to-day operations, so it frees them up, pursue opportunities, notice business trends, expand their market, etc. Yeah, that's what I also said, that there are different reasons why. I have literally dealt with CEOs that don't want to they just want the income of the CEO, but they don't actually want to deal with the company anymore. I've worked with them. But there are people like, that's why Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk are who they are, is because they find people to handle the day-to-day stuff so that they can focus on, I already said, yeah, I said that already. So that they can maybe focus on a different business, but I might have bumped the mic there. So they can focus on a different business venture. But you're taking the top people in business ever and comparing them to people who might own local businesses or people who might be still millionaires but don't own huge companies. Yeah, those people do suck, Mike. The people that I'm talking about are the CEOs and bosses that I've dealt with that are completely hands off, who started something, maybe they did a lot of groundwork, and that's good for them. You know, that's what they want. But the second that they actually have someone that stands up to them, and it could be in a positive way, right? Like the person that's standing up to them might say, hey, I think we can do this better. Or, hey, I think this can lead to these sort of outcomes. That person seems to get ostracized, right? It's not that somebody always gets fired, right? But maybe the person who is a little bit more outspoken, the person who's maybe has a little bit more of that competitive edge, gets passed up for promotion because the person above them is worried that they're going to get out competed. And I think we've all seen that. I think we're seeing it in multiple different levels. And this doesn't necessarily go for just like leadership positions within companies, right? This goes for even in public. We want, you know, as an American, as a patriot, I always hear people say they want to do patriotic things, or they want to do things that help, you know, the betterment of America. But the second that a movement comes up that they can be a part of, whether it's simply to go vote, whether it's simply to sign a petition, they don't do those things. And I don't know why that is. Did that happen to me in the Marines? Getting passed up for promotion? I can't really say that getting passed up for promotion happened, because I got promoted to Sergeant E5 in my first enlistment and my only enlistment, like in my first 4 years. And people in my job field in the infantry barely make it to corporal, let alone sergeant, in their first 4 years. So I can't really say that happened to me, although I headbutted with officers all the time and higher ups all the time. I was a leader of Marines, yet when I did things as a leader, I got kind of ostracized for it. Was I perfect? No. But when I stood up to things that I thought was right, when I had integrity, when I stood up for things that I believed in, I definitely got in trouble for it. Absolutely. The military isn't a place for things like that. Haven't you been reading the news lately? Officers aren't officers anymore. Officers only care about their career, for the most part. I can, out of all the officers I've dealt with, I can think of like 3 that I actually know, not including people I've read about, or, you know, like Lieutenant Colonel Stu right now, who is in the brig. I can think of 3 off the top of my head that are exempt from what I'm about to say. But most officers in the Marine Corps only care about their career. They will throw enlisted under the bus to further their career. You can ask any veteran that. And most of them will say what I just said. Unless it's from like 20 years ago. But in the past, like from like 2010 to now, most officers in the Marine Corps are more worried about their career. That's fact. I can think of like 3 or 4 off the top of my head that will actually stand up for what's right, for actually boast about their enlisted, who actually give their enlisted credit. Look, I've had lieutenants who I will completely run like a range, or I will completely come up with a training plan. I will completely get my Marines ready for deployment or ready for a training evolution or whatever. And then the lieutenant or captain, in one case, took full credit. And I confronted one of them about a certain situation, and they said, well, you're one of my Marines and I trained you up to do those things, so it's really a credit to him. I was in the Marine Corps about 2 years longer than that lieutenant was, and that lieutenant taught me nothing. I was literally working with him for like a month. So I'm sure I'm know for a fact I'm not the only one with stories like that in the military. But um, and then there's sure stories just like look I've never had like a big office job, I guess you can say. I've worked in business a little bit, but not like typical business, right? So I've dealt with bosses and CEOs of a wide range of companies, but I've never like worked directly for them, right? I was hired as like consulting for one reason or another, or like gigs, like I said. So I'm gonna use just my experience in the military to talk about it more in depth. But Mike and Twitch, did you see a big difference between officers who were deployed and those who never got their boots in the ground? I mean, yes and no. It's just a matter of time as an officer before, I mean, for most officers before they deploy. There is a difference between, it's more of like time in the fleet, especially in the infantry. You can see a difference in officers who've been in the infantry, like who have been in the fleet in an infantry unit longer. Does it make sense? Because even if you don't deploy for like a year or two or whatever, you still do so much training. You still go to the field so much, and you still do so much, like together. Um, and it's literally a term we call, and I mean it's not a technical term, but we call them boot tenants. Like when a new lieutenant comes from school and they go hit the fleet and they become in charge, that lieutenant's been in the Marine Corps for not even a year, and they're gonna have a staff NCO that's under them, like a staff sergeant who's under them. So you have like a platoon commander, right? And then you have a platoon sergeant. The platoon sergeant is technically under the platoon commander. A good platoon sergeant and platoon commander will work together, like if you got a good pair, but the platoon commander, who is the officer, is in charge of the platoon sergeant, right? That platoon sergeant is usually a staff sergeant or a gunnery sergeant who's been in the Marine Corps for anywhere from 8 to 12 years. Okay? And that lieutenant, we call, well, usually comes in as a second lieutenant. Call him a butter bar because he has a bronze or gold rank on their collar. Call him a butter bar. And there's like this weird transition that happens. It happens like 99% of lieutenants. We call them lieutenants, and you have to like break them in because they have this like mindset that they have this mindset that they're like the leader of Marines, right? But they've never led Marines, and that they have all this experience and knowledge, or they have all this knowledge per se, but no experience, right? So it's almost like they have a book way of doing things, and then how we actually execute those things. All you'd hear this. This is the phrase that pretty much every lance corporal, corporal, or sergeant has said to a lieutenant at one point or another. And it goes something like this. The lieutenant says to do something, and the enlisted says, well, sir, usually we do it this way. And the lieutenant will go, well, the book says we do it this way. And then the enlisted goes, well, sir, when we actually deployed, we did it this way. You know what I'm saying? And that usually trumps the conversation. But funny thing is that usually gets that enlisted person in trouble, and we have to do it by the book way anyways to show that it's wrong, that it doesn't work, and then we go back to the way that does work. And that's what we call breaking in the lieutenant. We got to break in the lieutenant. And it's literally happens to every platoon. It happens with almost every lieutenant. And it's not really the lieutenant's fault, but that's what happens. Now, when I was talking about officers who only care about their career and staff like higher up enlisted that only care about their career, I'm describing the plot of Heartbreak Ridge. It's true. Heartbreak Ridge is a true story, right? Isn't Heartbreak Ridge? I'm about to Google it. Mike in the Twitch chat says I'm describing the plot of Heartbreak Ridge. Is Heartbreak Ridge true? Is it a true story? It was actually fought mostly in the U.S. I mean, I think it's based on true events. I haven't seen that movie in a very long time. I mean, it's not it's not like the exact story is true, but it's based on true events, I guess. I had to see the cover of it to make sure I wasn't thinking of the other one. What's the other one about Vietnam? Because Heartbreak Ridge is Korea, and then I think it's Hamburger Hill is Vietnam. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. But Mike, yes, that's exactly how it happens, like all the time. Rewatch it and think about our conversation just now. You'll crack up. Okay, everybody needs to watch Heartbreak Ridge and think about what I was just saying. I don't remember the movie all that much. I know I've seen it for sure. It's with Clint Eastwood. Um, I can't remember the whole plot, but I'm pretty sure the same thing happens in Hamburg. I'm pretty sure the same thing happens in like almost every war movie except for like Saving Private Ryan. See, like the difference is Saving Private Ryan. Okay, let's just put an example. So the movie Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks is the platoon commander, right? He's a captain, but he's a platoon commander of that platoon. He's been around a minute, and he's not new, and he knows how to lead them, and he has all that book knowledge, and he knows how to apply it with his experience. You know what I'm saying? Because the enlisted looked at him when he was doing all these things. Remember, there's several times in the movie where he would refer to like the such and such handbook or the such and such book, right? And that's how officers are in real life. They know all this stuff about books. They can know all these things about like Marine Corps or in the Marine Corps orders or UCMJ and like all this other stuff. But they don't necessarily know how to apply it. And they don't know necessarily how to lead their soldiers or Marines. But in the movie Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks, captain, has been in the war for a minute, and he does know how to lead his guys. That's kind of the difference. And the same thing sort of applies to, doesn't necessarily, see the difference is in the Marine Corps is that like you become in charge based on what's in your collar, not based on like what you've done. And in the business world, you get in charge based on what you've done and what's on a piece of paper. So it's like a little bit different for most, I guess, businesses. Because I can think of, I guess, construction. You have like foremans, not foremans, like the person. What's the guy in charge of like a? I know there's a foreman. The foreman is kind of like the guy in charge of his crew, right? He would be like the platoon sergeant, I guess. But then like the person above that would be the engineer, I guess. Old gunny's put back in training in a recon platoon with a lieutenant that's fresh out of West Point with no field experience, literally carries around a book of what to do. Clint Eastwood does whatever he wants because he knows how to keep the recon team alive. Project manager, that's the term I'm looking for, project manager. So the project manager, like let's just say construction, or I believe the engineer is usually like kind of the same kind of bit. I don't work construction, but the project manager is like in charge of like a construction project, right? So the project manager in our case would be like the platoon commander or like a company commander. And then the foreman for the job who's actually done like worked up to foreman, who's actually been around for a minute, who's actually done a lot of construction, is the person that's like actually handling the task. He's probably going to butt heads the project manager, operations manager, project manager, general foreman, team lead, journeyman, apprentice. See, Mike kind of knows what I'm talking about. It sounds like he's done construction before, but that's kind of like the comparison to that sort of field. But to put it into perspective, I bet the foreman butts heads with the operations manager or project manager all the time, like the general foreman. I bet that happens all the time. Because, back to what I'm saying, that foreman is doing his leadership duties. You currently work in construction. How often do, oh, Mike, you currently work in construction. I don't think I knew that. I thought you did something else. Mike, how often do project managers and foremans get into it. Because in landscaping, something similar happens, but I know construction set up a little bit differently. The experience I have with construction is by like in passing when I've dealt with like landscaping or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Field guys and office guys always butt heads. See? Always. Always, always, always. When you start talking about other fields, because not everybody can relate with construction, especially when office guys weren't originally field guys. That's true. Officers in the military cannot relate with enlisted. It's impossible. All the time you see it all the time. The best officers are the ones who realize they will never relate with the enlisted. Fact. You see it all the time. New officers come to the fleet and they try to relate with enlisted. They try to. It's impossible. It's up to the senior leaders, like the senior, like enlisted, to like get that through the head of the officer in like smart ways. But it is impossible for an officer to relate with enlisted. That's not always true in the business world, though. If you work up in a business, I'm sure so like the foreman, for example, can relate with their apprentice, right? In construction, when we're talking in terms of construction. If we talk in terms of business, the manager can probably relate with the sales rep, right? Because at one point that manager probably was a sales rep. Let's just use the show The Office, for example. Michael Scott relates with the salespeople because he was once a salesman. I wish I kind of started off with the military analogy a little bit better because that's like my expertise, but I was trying to just use it broad terms without bringing in military to every single thing, because I feel like not everybody wants to hear me run my suck about how the military was. Also because, I mean, I was only in the military for 5 years. I'm not the most experienced guy. I don't know everything. I didn't do what a lot of other people did in the military. I mean, 5 years is more than some, but less than others. And I can just tell you about my experience in the military, but I don't feel like everybody wants to hear that all the time. The universal rule is everyone hates HR, says Mike from Twitch. I think we can all agree on that. Human resources just sucks. Having to deal with political correctness, anything, just sucks in general. In government, we see it all the time. Leaders get punished for doing leadership things. We have people, state senators, state representatives stand up to the Democratic Party all the time because the Democratic Party did some shady things, and they just get absolutely floored for it. I see, Mike. I knew you were like you don't do like work in construction in the field. I think I remember you being an electrician. It's been a while, but I never really equated that to like you actually like working construction. You know, like sometimes I forget that like electricians actually are there when the house is being built, rather than like I need like a light switch fixed. You know what I'm saying? I always forget that electricians are always there, like when the house is being built. Same thing with plumbers. Plumbers are there when the house is being built. They're not always there to fix what's broken. They're there to install while the house is being built. All right. Well, I'm glad you guys came in today. I see some people floating in and out of Facebook. Hello, thanks for the reactions on Facebook. Make sure you hit that reaction button on the way in or way out. There's no way to like a Twitch stream, huh? I guess not. You just gotta like share it with people, I guess. We're gonna do a better job of sharing the Twitch, because I feel like for most people, Twitch is a better interactive, like as far as like the live aspect of the show. The Twitch is better. We got a new Twitch follower yesterday. Welcome. Everyone forgets about electricians until your stuff doesn't turn on. Yeah. Hey, that means the best electricians are the ones that are never known, right? Is that how it goes? I know, like when I worked in sound and media, the best sound guys are the ones you don't know exist because nobody notices a sound guy until something's wrong. All right, guys, like always, thanks for tuning in. Hey, if you're listening to this, I believe you're capable of something great. Keep on keeping on. That's all I gotta say. You will find your niche, your role in your job or life or career or your team or whatever you want. You're gonna find your niche. Just keep doing what you think is right, despite you sticking your neck out and getting slashed every single time. I would not be able to sleep at night knowing that I didn't stand up for things that I stood up for while I was in the Marine Corps, while I did other gigs, or while I was on teams or whatever. Keep your integrity, keep your discipline, keep your head up. We're all gonna get through together. Mike, thanks for tuning in. People on Facebook, thanks for tuning in. Twitch, thanks for tuning in. And YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Hey, if you're listening right now, make sure you follow us on Spotify, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to catch us when we're live. I said that fast. I hope you got all that. All right, guys, until next time, catch you on the next one. Peace.